Hong Kong's former chief executive, Madame Carrie Lam, who after playing a major role in helping Communist Mainland China take over Hong Kong and take away everyone's freedoms and democracy, has become the most targeted and hated woman in the entire city. Carrie Lam knew she needed to escape Hong Kong at all costs. The people hated her and wanted revenge. China's own emperor and president for life, Xi Jingping, wanted her assassinated because she had become problematic and was threatening to expose the Chinese government's evil. The only friend Carrie Lam could turn to was her secret magical talking horse, Wilbur, who had the power to run faster than lightning and fly like a Pegasus. Carrie Lam needed to escape Hong Kong for good, and her secret magical talking horse was the only way to escape. Could Carrie Lam make it in time? This is the story of Carrie Lam and her magical quest for freedom. Carrie Lam stood on the rooftop of a skyscraper, her eyes scanning the city below. She could hear the distant shouts and cries of the angry mob that had gathered outside her residence, demanding her resignation. They wanted revenge for what she had done to Hong Kong, for helping China take away their freedoms. But it wasn't just the people of Hong Kong who wanted her gone. President Xi Jinping himself had ordered her assassination. She had become problematic, a liability that needed to be eliminated before she could expose the true nature of the Chinese government. Carrie knew she couldn't trust anyone in Hong Kong. The city was crawling with spies and informants, all eager to curry favor with the Chinese government. Her own security detail couldn't be trusted. They were likely compromised. The only friend she had left was Wilbur, her secret, magical talking horse. It sounded absurd, even to herself. But it was true. Wilbur had been gifted to her by an eccentric billionaire as a token of appreciation for her loyalty to China. Carrie made her way down to the basement garage where Wilbur was kept hidden from prying eyes. The horse neighed softly as she approached, his eyes filled with concern.
"They're getting closer,"
he said in his deep, rumbling voice.
"We need to leave now."
Carrie nodded and quickly attached a saddlebag to Wilbur's back, filling it with essentials: money, passports, and a small supply of food and water.
"Can you make it out of the city?"
Carrie asked nervously.
"They'll be watching all the major roads and airports."
Wilbur snorted indignantly.
"Do you doubt me? I have powers you can't even begin to comprehend."
Carrie smiled weakly and climbed onto Wilbur's back as he transformed into his true form, a majestic winged horse with shimmering white feathers, crackling with electricity. With a powerful beat of his wings that sparked to life like a bolt of lightning, Wilbur launched them into the night sky. Carrie held on tightly, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked down at the city below, the lights of Hong Kong growing smaller and smaller as they ascended. As they flew over the South China Sea, Carrie couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. She was finally escaping the prison she had helped create. But she knew it wasn't over yet. President Xi would not give up so easily.
"Where should we go?"
Wilbur asked, breaking her from her thoughts. Carrie paused for a moment, considering her options. She needed to go somewhere where she could remain hidden, at least until she could figure out how to expose the Chinese government's true nature without putting herself in danger.
"Taiwan.
She said finally.
They have no love for China and are sympathetic to the plight of Hong Kong."
Wilbur nodded and adjusted their course accordingly. As they flew towards their new destination, Carrie couldn't help but wonder what the future held for her. She knew that even if she succeeded in exposing the Chinese government's evil, there would be consequences. But for now, all she could do was hold on tight and hope that this unexpected alliance with a magical talking horse would be enough to keep her safe. Wilbur soared through the night sky, his powerful wings propelling them towards their destination. Carrie held onto the saddle tightly as the wind rushed past her, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. As they flew over the open waters of the South China Sea, a sense of freedom washed over Carrie. The weight of her responsibilities and the danger she had been in slowly lifted from her shoulders. She looked down at the dark expanse below, illuminated only by the moon's soft glow. It was a stark contrast to the chaos and uncertainty she had left behind in Hong Kong. Wilbur's deep voice interrupted her thoughts.
Carrie, we're approaching Taiwan. Is there a specific place you want to go?
Carrie considered for a moment before responding.
I think it would be best if we headed to Taipei, the capital city. I might have some contacts there who can help us.
Wilbur dipped his massive wings in acknowledgement and adjusted their course towards Taipei. As they neared their destination, Carrie couldn't help but feel a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. She knew that President Xi Jinping's reach extended far beyond mainland China, and there were likely spies and informants in Taiwan as well. But she also knew that Taiwan's government was more sympathetic to Hong Kong's cause and would be less likely to hand her over to the Chinese authorities. After what seemed like an eternity, Wilbur began to descend towards Taipei. He carefully navigated through the city's skyline, avoiding detection as he searched for a safe place to land. Finally, he spotted a secluded park on the outskirts of the city. With a graceful swoop, he touched down on a grassy clearing surrounded by tall trees. Carrie dismounted from Wilbur's back and stretched her stiff limbs. She looked around cautiously, scanning the area for any signs of danger.
We should find somewhere to rest,
Wilbur suggested.
You look exhausted.
Carrie nodded in agreement. She opened the saddlebag and retrieved a map of Taipei, searching for a nearby safe house or hotel that could provide them with shelter.
There's a small guest house not too far from here,
she said, pointing to the location on the map.
It's run by someone I used to work with in Hong Kong. I can trust him.
Together, they made their way through the darkened streets of Taipei, sticking to the shadows to avoid attention. The city was quiet at this late hour, its inhabitants unaware of the covert arrival of a fugitive and her magical talking horse. They arrived at the guest house and Carrie knocked softly on the door. After a few moments, it swung open to reveal an anthropomorphic black mouse with large ears, cartoonishly white gloves, and gold loafers. A look of utter shock on the creature's face as Carrie Lam and her majestic talking horse stood before him at his doorstep.
Carrie?
He exclaimed in surprise.
What are you doing here? It's been years since we last saw each other.
I need your help, Mickey.
Carrie replied urgently.
Can we come inside?
Mickey ushered them into the guest house and closed the door behind them. He looked at Carrie quizzically before gesturing for her to explain. Carrie took a deep breath and began to recount everything that had happened, from her role in helping China exert control over Hong Kong to her current situation as a target for assassination. Mickey listened intently, his expression growing increasingly serious as he realized the gravity of Carrie's predicament.
I can see why you came to me,
he said finally.
Taiwan is no stranger to Chinese espionage, but the people here also have their own ways of dealing with it.
He paused for a moment before continuing.
I have some contacts within Taiwan's intelligence community who might be able to help us. But first, you both need some rest.
The mouse led them to a comfortable guest room, where they could sleep undisturbed for a few hours. As Carrie lay in bed, the events of the past few days finally caught up with her, and she drifted off into an uneasy sleep. Little did she know that their journey was far from over. The shadows of danger and intrigue would continue to follow her, and the fate of Hong Kong still hung in the balance. Carrie awoke to the sound of hushed voices coming from the other side of the door. She sat up, feeling a mixture of curiosity and concern.
Wilbur, do you hear that?
She whispered. The horse's ears perked up as he listened intently.
Yes, it sounds like Mickey is talking to someone. We should find out what's going on.
Carrie quietly got out of bed and tiptoed to the door, with Wilbur following closely behind. She pressed her ear against the door, straining to hear the conversation on the other side.
I understand the risks involved,
Mickey was saying.
but we can't just leave her here. She needs our help.
There was a pause before another voice responded, its tone unfamiliar yet somehow menacing.
I'm sorry, Mickey, but this is not your concern.
It said coldly.
We have been tracking Carrie for some time now, and we know that she is in Taiwan. Hand her over to us, and there will be no further consequences.
Carrie's heart pounded in her chest as she realized what was happening. They had been discovered. She looked at Wilbur with wide eyes and mouthed the words,
We need to get out of here.
The horse nodded in agreement and turned back towards Carrie's room. She quickly gathered their belongings and stuffed them into the saddlebag. As she finished packing, she heard Mickey's voice again, this time filled with defiance.
I won't betray someone who risked everything for Hong Kong's freedom,
He said firmly.
If you want her so badly, you'll have to come and get her!
Carrie felt a surge of gratitude towards Mickey for his unwavering loyalty, but she knew that staying here any longer would only put him in danger as well. She silently waited for the mysterious man to leave before quietly opening the door and stepping out into the hallway, her magical talking horse, Wilbur, not far behind. Mickey Mouse turned towards her with a look of surprise and concern.
Carrie, what are you doing?
He whispered urgently.
I can't let them put you in danger too.
She replied.
We have to go.
Mickey Mouse opened his mouth to protest, but Carrie cut him off.
Thank you for everything, Mickey. I'll never forget your kindness.
Tears welled up in her eyes as she said her final goodbye. Then she turned and hurried down the hallway, with Wilbur following closely behind. They made their way through the guest house and out into the darkened streets of Taipei once again. Carrie's mind raced as she tried to come up with a plan.
We need to find somewhere to hide,
She said to Wilbur.
somewhere they won't think to look for us.
Wilbur nodded thoughtfully.
I know just the place.
He said. With that, they set off into the night, leaving behind their only safe haven in Taiwan, but carrying with them the unwavering determination to continue their fight for freedom. Carrie and Wilbur walked briskly through the darkened streets of Taipei. The night was cool, and the air carried a slight drizzle that misted their skin as they moved forward with purpose. Carrie had wrapped herself in a simple black cloak. Its hood concealed her features from prying eyes. Wilbur led the way, his hooves clattering gently on the wet pavement with each stride as his majestic wings crackled with sparks of electricity. His keen intuition took them down a series of winding alleys and narrow streets until they arrived at an unassuming door situated between two dilapidated buildings. Carrie looked at Wilbur with surprise.
Are you sure this is the right place?
The horse nodded confidently.
Yes, trust me.
Carrie reached out and turned the handle cautiously. The door swung open easily, revealing a dimly lit staircase leading downwards into darkness.
Well,
She said hesitantly.
I suppose there's only one way to find out.
With that, she descended into the depths, Wilbur following closely behind. As they made their way down the stairs, the sound of muffled voices grew louder. Carrie's heart skipped a beat as she realized that they were not alone. At the bottom of the staircase, they entered a small cellar-like space filled with crates and barrels. A single lantern hung from a rusty hook on the wall, casting flickering shadows across the room. In one corner stood a group of men engaged in hushed conversation. They wore dark clothing and carried an assortment of weapons, knives, swords, and even a few handguns. Carrie recognized them immediately, members of Taipei's underground resistance movement.
We're not here to cause trouble.
Carrie Lam said softly but firmly. The men turned towards her with surprise etched on their faces. One stepped forward cautiously.
Who are you, and what are you doing here?
He asked gruffly.
My name is Carrie,
She replied.
and this is Wilbur, my magical talking horse. We're in need of a safe place to hide.
The man eyed them skeptically, then looked at the others.
Leave us!
He commanded.
I'll speak with her alone.
The men nodded and filed out of the room, their wary gazes lingering on Carrie and Wilbur as they departed. Alone with the man, Carrie felt a mix of relief and apprehension. She wondered if she could trust him, if he would be willing to help.
"I've heard of you,"
he said finally, breaking the silence.
"Hong Kong's former chief executive, Madame Carrie Lam, the lady who's been causing quite a stir around town."
Carrie nodded.
That's me.
The man crossed his arms over his chest and regarded her intently.
"You know,"
he said slowly,
"helping you could put us all in danger. The authorities are cracking down on dissenters like never before."
Carrie met his gaze squarely.
I know the risks,
She said firmly.
but I also know that I can't give up now, not when there's still so much at stake.
The man studied her for a moment, then nodded.
"All right.
He said grudgingly.
You can stay here for now."
Carrie let out a sigh of relief as the weight of uncertainty lifted from her shoulders.
Thank you.
She said sincerely. The man gave her a curt nod before turning to leave.
"Oh, and one more thing.
He added over his shoulder.
If you and your magical talking horse are going to stay here, you'll both need to earn your keep like the rest of us."
Carrie raised an eyebrow in question.
"We have a job coming up tomorrow night.
He explained.
If you want to stick around, you'll need to prove that you're willing to fight for what you believe in."
Carrie smiled wryly as excitement welled up within her.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
She said. As the man walked away, Carrie's mind buzzed with anticipation. She knew that this new challenge would test her in ways she couldn't yet imagine. But she was ready. Ready to face whatever lay ahead and continue her fight for freedom.
Together they made their way through the darkened streets of Taipei, sticking to the shadows to avoid attention. The city was quiet at this late hour, its inhabitants unaware of the covert arrival of a fugitive and her magical talking horse. They arrived at the guest house, and Carrie knocked softly on the door. After a few moments, it swung open to reveal an anthropomorphic black mouse with large ears, cartoonishly white gloves, and gold loafers. A look of utter shock on the creature's face as Carrie Lam and her majestic talking horse stood before him at his doorstep. Hello, I am Carrie Lam. I am the former chief executive of Hong Kong and the People's Republic of China. If people do not like the way I do things, then they can all go fuck themselves. I am the chief executive, and I frankly don't give a damn about a bunch of whiny yellow chimpanzees whining about their freedoms. Oh, Tae-hyung, you're so pretty and handsome. I would love to take you out to a massage parlor one day. I'll massage you up real good, honey pie. Real fucking good.
Thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please consider subscribing. It would really mean a lot as it does help this channel grow. Well, until next time, guys, take care.